Hello everyone, how you doing? Today we're going to do something really cool in that we're going to create a simple web-based game. So this is a game that we're going to create. So now what inspired me to create this game is that some years ago, let's say while I was very young, so we didn't have, or we had television, but we didn't bother much about watching TV because of the light and all of this. So now what we normally play as children, I guess we even play today, perhaps the snake game or Ludo game where you go and buy a dice and then you have a board and you be using the dice hitting and then moving your player. So it was manual, so the thought of digital games and all of these things was not in our mind. So that is what we were used to, accustomed to that. So I think you might still remember it during those time where you have like a snake game and then you have snakes in different boxes. Let's say you have a snake here, you have a snake here, and then if you roll the die and then you come to 14 and the snake bites you, you go back to where the tail is. Okay, so that was it. So that is the idea, that or that's what inspired me to make this game. So that's similar, that's the game, this game Birds is similar to it, and the game is purely manual. So you get to do every single thing. It is not automated, so I didn't make it to be automated. So it's like as if you're creating the game on your own. So for the game we have 5 players. This we could add more and more in the code, but I created it to have only 5 players. So you can see their name: Bluey, Righty, Pinky, Brownie, and Greenie. So now it's what we need to do now is just like now we are mimicking. Let's say for example we have a die now. Now when you roll the die, it gives us either from 1 to 6. That's the probability. So we either have one a number in between that ranges. So from 1 to 6. So now what we're going to do is, so I created this portion here of the game. So no matter where you are in the game, so when you hit this portion, you see here, click anywhere in this area to see which bird should move. So when I click on this area, you see an alert comes up that tells me, okay, the bird Bluey, his flight speed is like 5 km per hour. I don't know whether that's possible. And okay, so what that tells me is that, okay, the bird is going to move 5 steps. So now I'll just go to where Bluey is and drag him. 1 2 3 4 5. So you see that? So it's totally manual. You do the drag and everything. The computer doesn't do it for us. So I made it that way just to mimic what we had before. Like, so this is a soft copy of the hard copy of the game that we have. So we click again. Ready 5 kilometers. So red is going to be here too. You see? Then you click again. Okay, pinky is 5. Pinky is 5 too. So you just drag that. Okay, now brownie is 2 km. So the numbers are on random, and greenie is 7. So you see green is on top right now. So now we click it again, it starts again from the beginning. So blue is on 2. Blue 1 2 is with greenie now. Reddy is on 3 km. Red 1 2 3. Pinky 6. That's, I think, 11 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this will help your maths ability, and it's good for kids. It helps them to drag around, get familiar with the keyboard, with the mouse rather. And brownie 6. Okay, so that's it. So now if it gets, as you go on, you see that there's a probability that one of the birds can actually come in contact with this. Let's say for example Reddy can be lucky to have 1. And when he has 1, that means, you see this +4, it's like the wind is blowing, so he can move like 4 steps ahead. 1 2 3 4. So it's like pushes him ahead 4 steps. Now the same thing, let's say now Reddy again, or Pinky had 1 2 3 4 5. If Pinky had 5, then it's going to come here. Whoa. And then this alien bird is going to squeeze the feathers out of it, and then it's going to go 2 places back. 1 2. So you see, bam. So that's it. So it will go like that and go like that and down till the person gets to the end. So you see, as it goes further, it becomes more dangerous and more deadly, and this is the end of the game. So it's a simple game that we're going to make, and you're done with the game, you can restart the page and all of those done. So you should be mindful of restarting your page. That's the issue with with web-based games. So when you restart, it starts again from fresh. But I just made it simple like that. But we could make it more advanced. We could make the game more advanced. So perhaps you may be using jQuery, perhaps PHP. So no matter how you refresh, it still has the values of the individual elements. So it doesn't have to reload it. Even if you reload, it still stays in the place there. But okay, but this is just in simple terms here. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to make this game. So I'll be taking you first of all through the basics so you understand what's really happening here. So this for the rest of these things, these are just the styling, the CSS. I'm using Bootstrap, but you can also use CSS to do this, just the name and organizing it so that it's properly aligned, the columns and all of those. That's not the main issue is what is making this game run. That is the scripting area. That's where we're going to use JavaScript to do it. So HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Those are the three things that we're using. We could take the game further using PHP or even moving it a little bit further, perhaps to React Native, but we don't go there. Let's just make it simple. You can see this hover effect. That's all CSS. Yeah, that's CSS. So now let me just do something. Paint. So now if you go through the game, you can see all of these birds initially are inside some of a rectangle like this. So now in HTML they call this a div. Yeah. So now what's is just like a div, that's it. So now what a div is simple is that it's just like a container that contains some things. So now in this case now it is containing the bird, that's it. This can be a bird. So this bird one or pinky. So now this div is this brown thing you see here. Okay. So now this line, this whole stuff is a div. Okay, so and then it has things inside it. Those are the children. So this number one is the children, this picture and all of these things, and this image and all of those things there you'll see there. So those are it. Okay, so I'll quickly take you through the coding of all this so that we see. So I don't want this video to be too long, and so uh, this is the code of the game when I created it. So as you can see, it's not even much code, just little. Just 70 lines of code. That's for the front end here. That's the HTML part of it. And then so this is actually what is running the game for us. That's the engine.js file. Okay, so it's not much code, just 80, including the comments and all this, just 80. So this we could even make it smaller, the code, and make it small. Okay, so that's it. So it's very simple to do. Okay, and that's it. The other one that we have is just the styling. This is just responsible for the, yeah, this is where we might have but it's almost all the same thing. That's just styling the page itself. Okay, so those are the three files, but for now, for what I'm going to take you through is that I want to make you get to the basics so you understand how things work first. So we could just go to file, create a new window, open a folder. Let's put in desktop. We could just create this folder, maybe birds, BIRD, bird game. Okay, so we create a folder there. So there we have it. We have a folder open. We need to create two files. We need an index, or we could even name it birds.html. We need a HTML file. We need another file, that's JavaScript file. We could call it script or even engine. I prefer using engine, doesn't matter. We need a styles, styles.css. Okay, so these are the three files that we're going to run. These are what our game is going to run on. Okay, so the first one we just write HTML. Okay, we change this to birds game. Okay, so we'll save the work. You could just come to file and auto save, so you don't need to save your work. So go to the HTML, right click on it, open in the browser. Okay, so there's it. So you have a birds game, so it's empty, nothing is there. Now what we need to do first of all is that we need let's see, paint. We need to create two divs. Those are like containers. Okay, let me explain for you. Okay, so you see our birds here. Our bird is inside a div, that is like a container that is containing this bird for us, and also this is another container. We call them divs, div in HTML. Okay, they are just like containers for whatever it's going to be inside. So this div is containing numbers here. This is containing pictures that looks like these are just pictures that are moving very fast, so it looks as if they are moving. That's just the concept of videography. So it says, so it's just pictures moving at a first speed, sorry, at a first speed. So it then it looks as if it's a moving object. So you got them. Now we need to basically do just this one and this. The rest of this is just replicated, so I just replicated them. But the main thing we are concerned about is, okay, I want to be able to drag this here. And I want to just between the interaction is between these two divs. Okay, how do I move something from here to here? How do I move it from here to here? These have the same properties, but how do I even take it back here? That's what we're going to do. So now what we need to do is that we come to the body of our page and we create div. Okay, we can just put start container. Now this is just going to contain our whole app for us, everything or the whole app. So in case we need to make some adjustment to everything, we don't need to do it individually. We could just adjust it once and for all. Okay, it's just good coding practice. Now we need another one, perhaps the hash, then put div1, then press the tab key. This is going to be for this container to contain this one, and then we need another div put a hash, then we are giving them an individual ID to be unique. Okay, so each box here it's unique from the rest. Okay, so we have that. So that's ID here, div2, and this one. So I'm going to be creating two so that I explain the concept to you so you understand how it works. Okay, but now in this first div here we want an image inside of this div here. Okay, so let's go to our file, maybe I don't know where you can find this, maybe documents, yeah, programming, web, birds, greeny. Okay, that's very scary. Okay, so now we just drag that into our project file here. Okay, it's good practice to have a folder where your images are going to be, but I'm just doing it for the purpose of programming. So we use the image tag. Okay, we don't need any alternate for now. So now we just source, that's the name of the image itself that we're trying to reference, that is frame. It's giving us a suggestion. Press the tab key. Okay, you save your work. Let's close this. Close this work, close this one there. We come here, we reload the page. So you see that's the image. Wow, it's so big, so we need to like give it a width. We need to specify the size of it. We could, let's say maybe 50 pixel. Okay, so we refresh that. So that is it that we have there. Okay, so we have the other one too, but you can't see it. Why? Because it doesn't have any styling, no property that shows, but the two divs are here. So we can go to the style up here, and perhaps we select the hashtag div1, put a comma, hashtag div2. We got the, sorry. Okay, so we are selecting both of these div. We want to apply the same style to both of them. So border, we can say 2 pixel solid black. Okay, so refresh that. That's it here. I have it, but the width is too much, so we need to give it a width. Let's say 100 pixel. So that's it there. Perhaps a height too. 100. It automatically gives me 100, but that's too much. So we can say 50 pixel. Okay. Now the image is too close to the border of this line here, so that's where the padding comes in place. Okay. So just put padding. You can say maybe, let's say 10 pixel. 10 pixel. Refresh. Okay, so you see now there's a space around inside within the space. But now we need a space outside to separate this one from the other one. To separate the two divs, that's where the margin comes in. So let's say 5 pixel, and we see. Okay, so we have 5 pixels. So it's all around the border has a margin of 5 pixels around it. So let's put that as 10. Okay, so that's it. So we have that now. Now what we need to do is that, okay, we want to be able to drag this image here and drop it here. This is our objective, but we see we cannot do that by default. We cannot do that. That is not how the image is set by default. So now we need to like go the extra mile to tell the image I want the image to be draggable. So now draggable, we want to set that to true. Okay, just follow me up. So we want the image to be draggable, so I want to be able to drag this image on top of this place here. Okay, And but another thing that we need to do is that we need to give this image an ID, okay, to know that okay, this is what we are dragging. When we drag this over here, this div, this portion, this second div needs to know what is coming on top of it, okay. So now this image itself must have an identification. That's an ID. We can call it greeny. So we have that, okay. Now we also need something on drag start. I'll explain that to you now. Start drag, okay. Now we also need something else, that is when we drag this image we want something to happen, okay. So when we drag it, nothing's going to happen, you see. So now we are saying once we drag this image we want to call this function, that is drag, and you have to put your event, because anything that happens on the browser, reloading the page, all those are just event actions, okay. So once we drag this image we want this drag function to fire up. So we can come to the head tab we have on script now, okay. Now we can have a function, uh, call it drag, with the same name, put an event there. Instead of having event we could just have e, because we're using the lot, so we could type in event together, or we could even just let's just type it, okay, event together. So now we want to, once we drag this image we want something to happen, okay. Now let's say for example, let me show you, let's confirm if this function is working. Welcome blessing, okay. So when we reload our page, the moment we drag this, you see, it gives us an alert that welcome blessing, okay. So that's what it's doing. So when you started dragging, this function is going to run up, that's going to fire up, okay. But now what we want to do is that the moment we drag this image, we want to get the ID of the image. We want to know what is it that we are dragging, okay. That's our objective, so our objective is just to get the ID of the image, nothing else, just to get that. And we just do that with the function, I think event dot the data transfer dot set data. I'll explain this to you. Just follow me up. Event event dot target dot id. Okay. Okay, so what this function is doing simply is that, okay, the moment we drag this function, the moment we activate this event, what we want to do is that we want to set the ID. So if you in programming we have something called setters and getters, okay. So you can give a particular value an image. Let me give an example. You can have your variable n is equals to 12, okay. We have set this value of n to be equal to 12 now, but now we need a function that can get this value for us, okay. So let's say now we don't need to use this value now. We can perhaps we want to use it. It could be the age. It could be the age of a we create an application. It could be the age of a user. Now we want to use the age somewhere else. Let's say the user, okay, get the profile data of the user. So now we can have a function, maybe profile. But let me just, so now this profile is acting as a getter. I want to use the term getter so that you actually see what I'm talking about, okay. Now what it's just going to do is going to alert for us the age, going to give us the age here, okay. Now we need to run this function as we initialize it, okay. So you see here we have 12 now, okay. That's it. So it's getting the age for us. We have set the age here. This function is getting that age for us, and then we are using it here. So that's it. So the moment we drag this function, the only thing that is doing is just setting the ID for us. It's getting the we are just setting the ID. Okay, now this image, it has an ID of, that is here, of greeny, okay. That's it. So now the image is the ID of greeny is attached to the email. So now we know that this image greeny has an ID of this image has an ID of greeny. So now we can use this wherever we want to use in another function. Now what we need to do now, the next thing we need to do is that we want to be able to you see, it's not allowing us to drag this over it now, okay. So we need to allow we need to write a code that will enable us to, that will allow us to drag over it. Now what we need to do is that, okay, yeah, we have set the draggable. Now we want to come here, and then what we want to do is that on drag, I think on drag, yeah, on drag that, okay, drag over, We want it to allow us to drag or event. I'll explain this for you now. Okay. Now we create a function called allow us to drag. Let's say drag over. Uh, let's change this to drag over. Okay. Now we want to be able to drag over this image now. Okay, it's different from dropping the image here. You can see now my mouse, I'm still holding the mouse now, but I'm not able to drag it over this. So it's like it is locked. So we need to like open this out now. Now what we need to do is that's why we have here on drag over. Okay, once we want to drag, once we put this here, the system automatically knows, okay, something is trying to come on top of this. Okay, now if that is the case, now run this function for us. Now the only thing that we need to do here is just, let's include the event now. The only thing we need to do is just put the event uh, we need to like prevent default default. Okay, to prevent default. Now what this does for us is that by default it doesn't allow us divs. Okay, you are not allowed to drag something over a div like this. You see, you're not allowed to drag. So now what we are doing is that we are trying to unlock that. We are trying to unlock it. So we are saying we don't want that default thing to happen. We don't want the default setting, that is, you can't drag over this. So we are preventing that from happening. So once this event happens, once there's a drag over, don't drag anything on top. You see, don't drag anything on top. Now that's it. So if you refresh our page, so allow, what this means now, allow us to drag over. So if you refresh our page, okay, so you see now the cursor changes, it's allowing us to drag over it. But now when we release our mouse to drop, look what happens. It opens the image on its own. It opens the image for us, and we don't want that, because why we haven't said, that's why it's somehow it is misbehaving, because this is not what it's meant to do. Now we need to specify, or we need to write under code that tells us, okay, once this is dragging over, now when you drop, I want you to handle that. We need to handle the dropping also. Okay, so we're going to do that still inside the same div, that is on drop. Okay, so once you drop the image, you want this function, that's the drop function, to be activated. Okay, you want that, so we come here and create another function drop. Okay, have an event. Got it. So now we need to drop this inside there. Now the first thing that we need to do is that we need to prevent this from happening. That is, we don't want it to open this. By default, it's doing that for us. It's the same code that we type for the allow. That's the event prevent the default setting. Okay, run that. So now when you drop it, nothing happens now. Okay, but it doesn't, like the previous time, it doesn't open the image for us. But now we need to specify, okay, when you drop this, I want you to come inside this place now, transfer, move from here to here. Now we need to set that there. Now what we need to do is that, okay, now you see, once in our drag function, the moment we drag, now we have an ID, we have the ID of the bird that is being dragged, that is being dragged. So it's like the ID is, it's around, okay, this is my ID, this is my ID, this is my ID. Now we need to get that ID when we drop it here inside here. So that's your identification. Now we need to so we do the same thing. Event data transfer. Okay, dot, this time we are getting the data. Here you can see we are setting data, but now we are getting data. Okay, now we want this in the form of a text. So by default, this image, if you bring it to the tab here, you see by default what identifies it is a link to where it is on my computer. That is what identifies it. You see, it is my file, it is my desktop, it is a bird's game, and all of those things together. But now we don't want that. What we want is the ID that we set for this image here. That is here, green. That is what we are interested. We're not interested in the link. That is why we're targeting just the ID of it. Now we want in a text form. Okay, now we are getting that here. So once you drop it, it's automatically going to get that for us here. So it's going to get that ID for us here. Okay, now when it does that, we need this picture. Now we want it to become a child of this one. okay, so it becomes part of this one. It's like you're switching family, so it goes there. Now what we need to, we call that appending here. So do the same thing, event dot uh, target, okay. So event dot target, so append child. Okay, so just follow up. So well, it might be confusing for you in the beginning, but just go along with, me as you get it proper, okay. But now this ID that we have here, we need to store this ID now inside a variable. You can call it maybe data, okay. The value of the ID, that's the ID that we've got in here, green, we need to store in the value because we're going to use it inside here. That is document document get element by ID, that is data, okay. So we are getting the data, that's the ID, that's the image. Then we know there's an image that is coming, and we are going to make it a child of this div. So now this image automatically, it's like we are copying this code for this image now and bringing it inside here. That is what we are doing. We are appending the child event.target. Yeah, we're getting the ID event.target.id. This one event.target.append child. Okay, so we run the code and drag it. So you see we have that. They are simple like that, so very simple. So from there we can take it more complex, but now we need to bring this back here, like to be able to, so this one is lock. That is what you see, it has no function. This div here has nothing that allows you to be able to drag over it, so we can just copy all of this function here and bring that here and paste it there. So save it, refresh the page, drag, you see, and then we can drop there. Okay, now that we've understand the basics, now we can actually start the designing of the game. Most of what you see is just the styling, but this is what runs the game. So you understand this concept. Now the rest of it is just more simple thing. This one is just random. If you go to the main engineer, so it's just getting random numbers here. Those are just simple things here. So now we need to be replicating each of these boxes. We don't need have to be adding a new div. So we use an if statement, or of rather for statement, okay, that we want 100 divs. It's going to work that out for us. Okay, now we can specify in different individual divs. Okay, this is what I want to happen, this is what I want inside the div, this is what I want there. Okay, so we'll be coding this out, we'll be doing it ourselves. So we have settled this first part of the game. Now the other part that we need to come in is this particular part here. How do we design, how do we get all of this thing here, okay, coupled with the styling. Okay, so we'll see you in the next tutorial. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video on this. Okay, so that's it for now. Thank you so much. If you loved it, please leave a comment, share with your fellow friends, and then have a blast. From this concept you can go over and do whatever you want to do. Just let your imagination run wild, and then you go create whatever you want to create code. That's it, just basically. So see you in the next episode. Bye.